This also sets a high requirement for the company secretary, as it's his ability that makes the management and directors willing to trust him and listen to his opinions, which is very important. In a good corporate culture, there should be disputes at different levels, within different departments, and within the board of directors, as this offers a platform for everyone to put forth their views. This also provides a good opportunity for the company secretary to take all views into account and compare them with the requirements of laws and regulations in order to arrive at good solutions to problems. If there are no disputes or confrontations, it's difficult for the company secretary to do his job. In addition, the company secretary needs to do preparatory work for meetings, perhaps having discussions with the directors beforehand and telling them the problems involved. He also needs to tell the independent directors their responsibilities, their duties, and their functions. He also needs to introduce them to the situation of the company. Since they might not be familiar with the company secretary needs to do a great deal of preparation for a meeting. If a company secretary wants to succeed, first of all, the management board and council have to trust him. This trust is gained through his own hard work, special knowledge, and skills. This is crucial. The company secretary isn't involved in decision-making or routine management work. What he needs to do is to make sure the internal workflow of the company conforms with the law and that the decisions made by the board of directors conform with the law. These aren't done by himself. Instead, he gives advice or helps the directors to fulfill their responsibilities. So the key is that the management board trusts him and is willing to listen to his advice. The role of the company secretary has become more and more important, and the stock exchanges in Shanghai and Shenzhen have made more concrete demands on the duties of the company secretary. The current revision of the listing rules in Shanghai and Shenzhen has added a lot about the qualifications of the company secretary and the provisions for his rights and duties. This position has become more important in the whole development. If there is a revision of the company law in the future, there is a possibility that they will also add rules related to the company secretary. Against this background, the role of the company secretary will become more important. At the same time, as the role becomes more important, greater demands are placed on the company secretary. That's why we've requested that training programs and qualified professional examinations for company secretaries be developed in future.
I
think it's very important. First of all, the control measures are different in the mainland and Hong Kong. Hong Kong securities control emphasizes autonomy, while the system is too inflexible in the mainland. Hong Kong has a more mature capital market, and the mainland can learn a lot from the Hong Kong experience. The Hong Kong ICS is more mature, while the industry has just started in the mainland. I think the professional standards are higher and the training better in the Hong Kong ICS. The company secretary will act as a promoter to enhance the level of corporate governance among listed companies in the mainland. How do we raise the standards of company secretaries? How do we enhance training? After these few days of training, I think we have to. The most desirable thing is that most of the members of the HKICS are company secretaries from big listed companies in Hong Kong. They tell us about their actual experiences, and the content is rich, which helps us a lot in our practice.
I think Hong Kong do play a role. There is a role for Hong Kong to play because maybe the example that I come across, maybe I would think maybe they are the very few one. A lot of companies in the mainland still is very much like the family-owned one in Hong Kong. Possibly the chairman or the chairman of the board or the managing director have the say of everything. So it's sometimes the younger directors or even the assistant or the managers, they may not dare to raise something new or offending or unexpected to the chairman. So I think with the professionals from Hong Kong, it's easier because we are not their employees. So when there is something something that comes up, then we just speak according to what is required. This is an additional piece of advice. So whether you take it or not, I just speak as a professional. I don't have to worry that my boss is not happy with this or whatever. So I think it helps them that, and very often they will ask, is it really mandatory? Is it needed? Just that I attended a board meeting yesterday that among the board of directors there, some directors are PRC citizen, and we are talking about the requirement to set up an independent board committee. And actually the independent board committee is normally made up of the independent non-executive directors. So one of the executive directors do ask me, is it possible to, is it really that you can only have the INED there? Because it seems they want to have some other directors there as well. And I tell them that generally this is the norm. And he said, is it really necessary to have an independent board committee? And I say, yes, it's required because when you issue the circular, you do need them to give recommendation to the independent shareholders. And then when it comes to the shareholders meeting, it's under that situation, it's only the independent shareholders who can vote. So that's why stock exchange would require you to have an independent board committee. And I would say I'm quite happy that I can explain the situation to him. And I also feel, I noticed that the other board members or people present at the board meeting do feel relieved that an independent person talk about that openly to him.
The process of listing, whether in China or overseas, is always going to require a company to upgrade its corporate governance standards. With a more diverse ownership comes greater responsibilities for risk management and transparency. The transition to a publicly owned entity is perhaps all the more remarkable in China. However, given the degree of state ownership and control which still exists on the mainland, the so-called H-shares companies, as mainland companies listed in Hong Kong are called, have had to adapt to more diverse and independent boards, more disclosure on performance data, and stricter monitoring of connected transactions. They have needed a greater degree of courage and determination to accept the change needed to accommodate their new ownership base. Next, let's look at the benefits and challenges of mainland companies listing in Hong Kong.
那么在这个整个的过程中呢，我想通过
During the whole process, the most important point I realized was that the capital market teaches us that we have to value our investors. That was the most significant realization for me before and after the listing of Tsingtao Beer. Before listing in Hong Kong, the company only had to face the major stockholders and the consumers. Once we listed on the capital market, from the management board's point of view, we became responsible to all investors, which means we have to deliver on the promises in the prospectus. During the 10 years since listing, the road was very bumpy. We went from being completely unfamiliar with the listing regulations to following the regulations, including those under preparation and newly released.